Now here I have chained 10, which is the foundation for the Tunisian cuff. You can see this is the front side of the stitches. And when you work Tunisian, and actually when I like to start out all my crochet this way is to work it to the back loops. So when we turn it over, you can see these ridges here. So you're going to start by going into the second chain from the hook. So right here. And you pull up a loop. And you leave that loop on the hook. And then you do the next one. Sometimes I have to use my finger to help me get those on. And you keep leaving on. You can see this project is so small that actually all of these loops are going to fit right here onto this little part. So I don't have to get a special hook to Tunisian crochet for this project. Okay? And then once you get all of your loops on, we'll do the return row. Okay, so you see here I have all 10 of my loops on the hook. And a return row is worked the same way each time. You yarn over and draw it through one loop, and this forms the edge. Yarn over and draw through 2. Yarn over and draw through 2 all the way to the end until you have one loop left on your hook. And that's going to be the first stitch of the next row. I used to make the mistake of chaining again after I got to the end, but you do not need to do that. So keep going until you draw it through 2. The only time you draw it through 1 is that very first stitch. Just keep drawing it through 2. And now here we are to the end. And that is the way you will work a return row for each pass. Okay, now for this step you're going to come across and do row 1. And you can see these vertical bars right here. And so you will go under the vertical bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Now leave that loop on your hook. Same way, you'll end up with 10 loops on your hook at the end of each row. Okay, now bring the yarn to the front of the hook. Go into the next vertical bar. Now bring it around. If you knit at all, this kind of reminds you of a purl stitch, or they call it Tunisian purl stitch, because it leaves a little bump on the front of the fabric. And then yarn over and pull through that loop. Okay, and then you're going to go a regular simple stitch. Bring the yarn to the front. Put it through the vertical bar, which the first row can be a little difficult. Bring it to the back. And pull it through. Simple stitch, pull the yarn to the front, now to the back, purl stitch to the front. First one can be a little difficult. You just keep alternating. So now bring the yarn to the front. Bring it around to the back. And now when you get to the end, you're going to want to find the stitch, the V here, and put it through both. And this can get a little difficult sometimes. And this is the way I do mine. I know some people do it a little bit differently, but I put it underneath both of those, and then draw up the loop. I'm having trouble keeping it in there. Okay, so I have my 10, and then I'll work a return row. Over to the return row for row 1, and now we're going to start row 2. This time you're starting with a purl stitch, so bring the yarn to the front. Always skip this first edge and go in this, so this will be number 2. Bring the yarn to the back. And you get the hang of this after you do it for just a little bit, because I really was not comfortable with Tunisian purl stitch at first, and then it became much easier. And then a simple stitch. Now you can tell looking at this, like this one was a simple stitch last time, and the purl stitch has a little bit more It's a little tighter looking, has a little more that bump right there. So now we're going to do another purl stitch, so bring it to the front. Okay, now do a simple through the bar, yarn up, purl, okay, bring it to the front, wrap it around. Sometimes they get so small, like this one right here, if you can see that. You just, luckily those are usually always your simple stitch because you're alternating. Okay, yarn to the front, yarn to the back. Now, this one is a simple at the end, and then I'm going to do another one right underneath these two bars. So the end can get tricky. And then you'll work a return row. And you'll repeat rows 1 and 2 for the entire length until it is 6 inches long.